Sai Ram. We'll start the proceedings of the day by lighting the lamp and chanting of Veda. I request our respected Vice Chancellor, Dr.
गणेशाय नमः सरस्वत्यै नमः श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ओम् यश्छन्दसां वृषभो विश्वरूपः छन्दोभ्योऽध्यमृतात् सम्बभूव समेन्द्रो मेधया स्पृणोतु अमृतस्य देवधारणो भूयासम् शरीरं मे विचर्षणम् जिह्वा मे मधुमत्तमा कर्णाभ्यां भूरिविश्रुवम् ब्रह्मणः कोशोऽसि मेधया पिहितः श्रुतं मे गोपाय मेधा देवी जुषमाणा न आगात् विश्वाची भद्रासु मनस्यमाना त्वया जुष्टानुदमाना दुरुक्ता बृहद्वदेम विदते सुवीराः त्वया जुष्टऋषिर्भवति देवि त्वया ब्रह्मा गतश्रीरुतत्वया त्वया जुष्टश्चित्रं विन्दते वसुसानो जुषस्वद्रविणो न मेधे मेधाम इन्द्रो दधातु मेधां देवी सरस्वती मेधा मे अश्विना उभावा दत्तां पुष्करस्रजा अप्सरासु च या मेधा गन्धर्वेषु च यन्मनः दैवी मेधा सरस्वती सा मा मेधा सुरभिर्जुषतागु स्वाहा आमा मेधा सुरभिर्विश्वरूपा हिरण्यवर्णा जगती जगम्या ऊर्जस्वती पयसा पिन्वमाना सा मा मेधा सुप्रतीका जुषन्ताम् मयि मेधा मयि प्रजा मयि अग्निस्तेजो दधातु मयि मेधा मयि प्रजा मयि इन्द्र इन्द्रियं दधातु मयि मेधा मयि प्रजा मयि सूर्यो भ्राजो दधातु हंस हंसाय विद्महे परमहंसाय धीमहि तन्नो हंस प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
Om Sri Sai Ram. A heartfelt good morning to all of you all here present here. On behalf of Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning and this workshop, I take this pleasure to welcome all of you to this 4 days event. Just now our students chanted the hymn, Vedic hymn, invoking blessings of Goddess Saraswati. Goddess, in our culture, we repose all our faith in her to bless us with right wisdom, power of discrimination, and intelligence. So with these few words, I take the pleasure to introduce our respected Vice Chancellor to deliver the inaugural address of this event. It is always a pleasure to introduce our Vice Chancellor because he is a person who is always inspiring and inducing activities that would lead to greater academic rigor in the campus. So, and also, it is another pleasure that it is a very pleasant activity because introducing him becomes very, very simple for the person standing here because you have to just read out his wiki page. So Professor K.V.R. Verma completed his MSc in physics from Madras University in 1981. He was born in 1950 in Andhra Pradesh though. After that, he went on to Glasgow for his postdoctoral work. Then he was in Indian Institute of Science for a number of years. He was the chairman of the Material Science Research Group in Indian Institute of Science. His area of work includes dielectric, ferroelectric, nonlinear optics, and electro-optics. The focus has been on functional ceramics, glass, nano crystals, composites, single crystals, etc. He has authored and co-authored almost more than 200 papers in international journals. And currently, he is the Vice Chancellor of Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. With these few words, I invite Professor Verma to deliver the inaugural address. Thank you.
Om Sri Sai Ram. Sai Ram, and good morning to every one of you who has come from distant places and also overseas. At the outset, I would like to congratulate the head of the Department of Mathematics and Computer Science and his colleagues and also the organizing committee for having chosen such a wonderful topic to discuss and deliberate in the next coming 3 days or so. I specifically invite the experts who came from overseas to indulge themselves in discussing about the intricacies that are involved in arriving at a sustainable mathematical models to understand the infectious diseases and their spread rather. So before I saw this flyer, I never thought, or rather imagined, that there would be mathematical models to predict these infectious diseases, leave alone the spread. When I saw this, I was about to tell Professor Pallav, of course, I will tell you more about him when I probably go towards the conclusion of my speech. So I told him, what is these people are talking about? You don't have doctors in our department, you don't have psychiatrists, we don't have others around, bio people. How can you do just this modeling and all that? You should not be wasting your time in getting into these areas. But then when I looked at all this, subsequently I referred to some papers and then see for myself what kind of work is going on in this area. And I found out that it's a vast area and people have been working on this mathematical modeling of these things, not only here, in various other countries. I'm sure they must have come out with nice models to predict infectious diseases and their spread. But having said that, let me also caution you, it's not that simple a problem to deal with. It's a nonlinear phenomenon and a complex problem. The complexity that came in because we have several factors or parameters to be taken into account when a computer scientist or a mathematician sits around and try to program it. I wrote a few lines over here. With your permission, I'll read these things because the terminology is something new to me, because I'm not a biologist, I'm not a mathematician. As he said, I did my, okay, there is a small correction there. I did my post-graduation in physics and of course material science way back in 70s. Then completed my PhD in 1981 and moved over to Glasgow to do my PhD. There, of course, I worked on various problems and a variety of problems. Came back and joined Indian Institute of Science. And after joining over there, even though I was working on, probably materials and their functionalities and all that for many, many years, but my mind was always going towards finding out something which would be really useful to society. It's not that these materials are not useful to the society. Indirectly, all these materials that you have been working on, or rather worked on, have gone into some device or other. But then a problem like this, when somebody steps into this and then says that, okay, here is a model, this will predict how these diseases, or rather infectious diseases, will come about. I mean, which is very difficult, of course. I want to listen to some of the experts actually, what kind of modeling they are into and how good their prediction is. And also the spread. Once it starts spreading, we have no control over that. Doctors actually struggle. All right. I mean, of course, there is some success in prevention and control of these infectious diseases. But despite many notable success in prevention and control, infectious diseases remain an enormous threat to human and animal health. Many factors that include antimicrobial resistance, human connectivity, population growth, urbanization, changing human behavior, land usage, and so on, pose global challenges for prevention and control. I'm sure mathematical models would be handy to understand epidemiological patterns. Study of infectious disease dynamics is a strict interdisciplinary area. Probably it is at the intersection of mathematics, epidemiology, ecology, evolutionary biology, immunology, sociology, psychology, and so on. What else we have to add here? Everything else is coming in. That's why, when professor has handed over that book to me, immediately I thought I should call Professor Pallav and then invite people to start a different department with all these scientists around under one roof. Then only we'll be able to make a dent in an area like this. To some extent, it is true everywhere, every area. When I say material science, you have to have physicists, you have to have engineers, you have to have chemists. Similarly here, of course, this is a vast area, and interdisciplinary area of this kind definitely requires many people to make any dent or develop any sustainable model. I would also add a few more lines here. About a few years ago, it was believed that the health burden of infectious diseases was becoming insignificant as hygiene, improved nutrition, drugs, and vaccines brought out a steady decline in overall mortality. However, in recent decades, it became very clear that the threat from serious infectious diseases will persist, and human mortality attributed to infection is projected to remain at current levels of 13 to 15 million deaths annually until at least 2030. Whenever scientists find some new drug, these pathogens or whatever terminology you want to use, they find way to resist. Come out with, then again, when you have new drug for that, some other thing will crop in. So newly emerging infectious agents represent a continuing challenge for example, for instance, HIV, severe acute respiratory syndrome, that's called SARS, West Nile virus, Nipah virus, drug-resistant pathogens, and Ebola virus breakout that happened about a couple of years ago. With the emergence of antibiotic resistance and very new viruses and the complexity that is associated with, I wonder how close your mathematical models would be to the reality. It's a great challenge, of course. I strongly believe and suggest to our young students and faculty over here that before we touch upon problems of this high complexity, we should try to model. Simple examples, I don't know, don't blame me for this. I don't know whether simple mathematical models do exist in understanding simple ailments and diseases. What is the simplest ailment that I can talk about here is that when somebody sneezes in the audience, within a few minutes or within a few hours, somebody else starts sneezing. And when somebody suffers from viral fever, next few hours, somebody else will get it. Why? What's the reason for this? And whenever there is a heavy breeze, we get attacked by fever or whatever it is, cold cough. And when you visit a doctor for this cold and cough, okay, they will all ask you to drink a lot of water, this and all that. Then they say that if it is a viral fever, of course, we don't have antibiotics for this, but cold cough, okay, cough syrup, this, that, and all, some tablets sometimes. And if you go to a rural area, the doctors will prescribe immediately antibiotics for this. But then nobody would analyze actually how this has come up, and then the body resistance. Is there any other way of doing or overcoming this problem? Nothing of that kind. I don't think any data would be made available to the doctor beforehand. So I have a feeling that every hospital, not only in this country, elsewhere in the world, should have a separate section. As soon as a patient goes, the history of the patient, what exactly has been up to, and his whereabouts, where from he has come, what exactly happened in that particular village or a town or a city. Are there any cases like this? History. After that only they should go in for medication. So I don't think our doctors have that kind of patience or time to do this. So every university or every hospital should have this kind of section. Another thing that I was thinking very seriously was, whenever you are involved in meeting with an accident, or for that matter, a simple thing, that will disturb us a lot. But before you meet with an accident, what was the state of your mind? What were you thinking about it? I give you a simple example here. About 1.5 years ago, I had a bad fall. And I ended up in breaking my backbone, partly. It took about 5-6 months for me to stand up and talk to you. And I was thinking, what happened to me? In what state of mind I was before I started climbing up a ladder. Of course, I was climbing up a ladder, then I fell down. And you know what happened? When I started analyzing it, what happens when you have a disturbed mind before you get into any activity, that will carry on. That memory will be there. And your mind will be only thinking about it. You would not, it will not guide you. Okay, now forget about that. You're trying to climb steps. Be careful about it. Watch out. Nothing of that kind. Okay. Now, when I go to a doctor, it's fine. Okay, do this, and all that. But in order to avoid recurrence of this, one should analyze your mind before. Okay, somebody spoke to me. Now and then, of course, Professor Pallav also calls me, saying that, sir, we'll start MTech in so and so program. I want this many faculty members for doing this. So probably I was thinking about it. And then, okay, how do I answer? What do I do? How do I sort out this issue? Because I have so many constraints around. And then how do I do this? Maybe then immediately somebody called me, sir, there is a problem with this. And then okay, I said, all right, let me attend on to that. I started climbing up. Maybe behind the back of my mind that was there. I was not really conscious about what I was doing. That has resulted in this. Similarly, I'm talking about this infectious disease, whatever it is. We should look at the history of this, the frame of mind. So psychiatrists or psychology department is a must actually to find out what exactly happened, but nobody will tell you truth. His wife must have shouted at him, or he must have shouted at his wife or children. He will not tell you, oh, I shouted at my wife, and my wife shouted at me today morning. That is the reason why I got it. No, nobody will tell you that. Okay, I'm all right, no problems. I just met with an accident, that's all. Several accidents do occur because of this. So it's not that you only go by whatever patient tells. We should have history built up. I mean, people have to speak truth. Okay, this is what exactly happened before I met with this. This is what exactly happened before I caught this cold cough, or before I got into this, infectious diseases. Nobody will reveal the truth. Then you'll be able to, analyze this, because when you are developing a model, mathematical model, these are all the inputs that are required. If you don't have that many inputs, you will only develop some model which will only confine to textbooks. We'll teach the same thing to students. But the prehistory is so important for developing any model. But you have 100 different parameters like that. I'm sure all the minds that have gathered around here would be able to put them together and come out with a very viable, sustainable model and come out with a work plan at the end of this 4th day. With these few words, I'd like to wish you all the best and have a pleasant stay on this campus. Thank you very much. Jai Sai Ram.
I'm not connecting, just for seeing some. Good morning, everyone. I also welcome again all of you for being here for this first international workshop. We have tried level best to bring people from different disciplines here for this workshop. Let me give you a brief outline how this thing's all started. So Dr. Vamsi, who's sitting there at the back, he was traveling to a conference in University of Arizona, Tucson last year. And I met with him in that conference, and we were both presenting our research work in that conference, and it was an international workshop. And we happened to talk during that workshop, and slowly these ideas started to emerge about this having a workshop where we can use the talent from India as well as some of the cutting edge research that we are doing in US. And we started talking, and then Professor Barua we had a meeting with Professor Barua, and then I talked to, then the main thing, when you organize some of these things, the important thing is the money, resources. And for that, I emailed Professor Sheshar, who's sitting at third row there, and he gave us an idea. I was talking to him. He was actually a National Science Foundation program officer for quite some number of years. And so I consulted him, and he gave this wonderful idea to write an NSF grant. And so I quickly wrote the grant for it, and it was like within a week, I think, right? And fortunately, it got funded because the ticket is from traveling from US to India is quite a lot, and when you are having many people, that sum starts to grow, increase rapidly. And so so we got this, we applied for an NSF proposal, and while this proposal was getting evaluated, Dr. Vamsi and Dr. Barua was also writing local proposals in India. And I was actually contacting some of the professors here, Professor Debroy sitting here, Professor Grillo sitting at the back from Portugal, and many other people to come and participate in the workshop. And slowly, we realized that there are lots of interest in the type of work that we were interested in presenting in this workshop. So that is how these things started. And there are a number of things that I might have forgotten. And as the name suggests, there are multiple things here. As the Honorable Vice Chancellor was mentioning, this is a very complex problem of infectious diseases. How do you handle it? I mean, it's not only that what you are seeing is the right way to model it. There's a lot of prior history, a lot of individual behavior, social mechanisms that you have to understand in order to come out with a viable model for it. And so this actually, as the title suggests, there are different aspects of the modeling component that we do in our research group, and Professor Carlos Castillo-Chavez is a pioneer in it, and I think many of them were sending me an email because they know Professor Carlos Castillo-Chavez rather than me. As you can see, this is a combination of three different topics: modeling dynamics, statistical inference, and prediction. Prediction is very small amount of what we do. Most we do is understanding how different mechanisms, social behavior, epidemiological mechanisms come together, and which are the one becomes dominant and which becomes less dominant in any of the particular case study of the disease. So this is. And we talked to all of the organizers, and we wanted to do something different in the sense, at Arizona State University, Dr. Punch is sitting here, ASU has become what I understand as a role model in US. Role model in the sense that we don't have a classical department, for example, just to give you one aspect of it. We have schools where we have multiple departments, in fact, multiple researchers from different disciplines coming together and actually working together on a common real-life problem. You know, real-life problem doesn't need only mathematicians. You need a biologist, as Honorable Vice Chancellor was talking about. So you need many different, so for example, my department is called School of Human Evolution and Social Change, and it has epidemiologists, it has anthropologists, it has mathematician, it has statistics, it has economists. So multiple researchers in one department, and that makes it a very unique structure in Arizona State University. And we are so happy and proud that we met Dr. Vamsi and Dr. Barua, and they were kind enough to host us. We are having such a warm hospitality here in Puttaparthi, and this is my first time. And Dr. Carlos Castillo-Chavez, he was telling me that he was invited many times, but this is the only time he said, yes, I will come. Maybe because of Sai Ram. So So as I was saying, the goal of this workshop is not a conference. This is not a conference. This is a workshop, and it's a training workshop. So what we want to do is we want to expose all of us with